the question becomes, Richard, what are some of the emerging challenges that you see in the fitness industry? And as an industry, how are we ill-prepared to meet those changes and challenges?
I think some of the biggest challenges that we are going to face as personal trainers, and not just even within the health club side of the industry, I think as trainers what we have to realize is that liability is now becoming a very real issue. There has been some really damaging press recently on some of the major networks in regards to personal training, which obviously we've become very aware of. And the problem with that is that we have a bunch of very good trainers, and if there's some poor trainers out there, they tend to then associate the people in the world then associate that we're all bad trainers. And the problem with that is that if we don't do something now to start to identify what's a great trainer, what makes a great trainer, and then protect those trainers that are doing the right thing, and make sure that the ones that aren't doing the right thing, that there's some sort of system in place where we can either help to bring them up to a new level, or actually try to remove them from our industry. I think if we don't start to do those things, the liability is going to become a much larger issue. I think the government is then going to step in, and government regulation can be a good and a bad thing, and I think for us at this point in time, I think it wouldn't be a great thing. So I think we need to be able to step in, and we need to be able to take control ourselves and to try to have that direction. So for us on PTontheNET, what we need to be able to do is there's a lot of different phases, but I think one thing that what is great now about things like these video webcasts is that we want to make the site a lot more interactive. So we want trainers to, rather than come to us just as a resource, we want them to come to us as their daily piece of news on the on the industry. So for instance, with our new video and our new audio blogs, which obviously you're doing, that tells them what's going on within the industry that week, that month, that year, and maybe even possibly that day. And I think with things like the actual video cast and our new exercise library and some of these new things that we're looking at doing, I think what it's allowing us to do is to become a very interactive website, and that's really what most of you, the Y generation of our members, that's what you want. You want something that's new, that's evolving, that's changing, but you also want it to be obviously very professional, but it's got to be a lot of fun. And I think what we're doing is we're trying to bring more of the fun element back into it as well too, because a lot of us have a lot of fun. I think sometimes on PTontheNET that's maybe not emphasized because it is a very professional site. I think now we're looking at making sort of mixing that professionalism with the obviously with the fun aspect. So that's kind of a long answer to your question, but hopefully that's kind of what you're looking for.
Well, my personal belief is that communication is probably one of the only indispensable skills, because everything else changes. Every 18 to 24 months, if you're doing something right, much of that's going to become obsolete. Communication is one skill set, is one core competency that will never become obsolete, but you can never put it in park even for a minute. You have to always push the envelope. So the better we can communicate, obviously, the better impact, the better we're going to be able to engage people. But as we wrap this interview up, in what ways is FitPro, PTontheNET, going to provide a solution for a lot of the problems that you mentioned within the next, let's say, 24 months? What's some of the things that you're really focusing on?
I think, for us, it's going to be, the number one piece is going to be the collaboration. So for us, I think the one thing that PTontheNET does exceptionally well is we unite the industry. And I think what we're going to try to do is have more events like Meeting the Minds, where we can actually now invite along the trainers as well. And that's going to help us to unite the industry so that people can see that we are a united front, and that if we do things together collectively, we can actually achieve a lot more. And it will help us to professionalize our industry and probably help us move away from government regulation. Secondly, we have a couple of top secret projects which we can't tell you about, which should be out within the next 12 to 18 months. That's going to be very exciting. That's definitely going to change the face of the industry, I think, from the true educational side of the business. And I think basically the fact that we are going to make sure that the fun aspect becomes part of the industry, because one thing that's interesting with us, Bobby, that I think you may have noticed as well too, and I think people like Ian O'Dwyer, and Brian Braley and a bunch of these different guys, I think one aspect that's been missing with our training is we became so technical that we took the fun aspect out of it, and I think we forgot who the end user was. And the end user is the client. Now, if a client's telling us that they want to lose weight, we sometimes need to realize, well, what is that? What do they really want to do? Because sometimes they're saying one thing and they may mean something completely different. But we've really found out quite consistently now with a lot of our authors is that regression seems to be the next new wave of progression. So by regressing a lot of these exercises and a lot of things that we're doing with our programming, we're finding that we're getting much better results. And Ian O'Dwyer has been really successful with that, Gray Cook, and a lot of these different people are saying, look, let's regress this person down first, and then let's try to progress them through. And it's been a very successful process. So I think looking at regression, I think making sure that everything now becomes a lot more interactive, so that we become the face of the industry for you, and we make sure that that's an interactive process, not just a learning process. And then I think, basically through a lot of our changes with the exercise library, which is about to, a very large scale revamping, some of the projects that we're working on, and a lot of these authors bringing out some pretty amazing products like Anthony Carey, Michelle Dalcourt, a lot of things which are now based around, this movement-based, kind of form of training. So it's all very exciting, it's all very interesting, and I think for us, we want to be on the face of that change.